Hi, and welcome to Two CPAs and the Mic, the podcast where we talk tax, finance, and all things related to business. Whether you're a business owner, working professional, or someone who wants to start a career in accounting, this is the podcast for you. Hosted by CCK Strategies partners Jeff Frable and Sara Mays, we dive into relevant business and tax matters with working professionals to make these topics less intimidating, relatable, and dare we say fun? Let's get down to business.
Welcome to this week's episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. My name is Jeff Frable. I'm a partner at CCK Strategies in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we are excited that you are joining us for this week's episode. As always, is my amazing co-host, Sara Mays. Mays, what's up?
Hey, Frable. And
how you feeling, Sara?
It's that time of year, and I am just... The crud has hit hard, and listeners, you probably hear the stuffiness, congestion in my voice today. So it is a beautiful, congested day.
I do enjoy how slowly you're speaking, and it's like you've got something really important to say every word. So
she sounds really wise today.
She does sound wise. So to those millions of listeners that are joining us for the first time today, she may not be her perky self, but she's trudging on.
I'm here.
Anyway, she's here. She's doing it for the team.
I am. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Yes.
Also with us today is our amazing on-air producer, Christy Porter. Hi, Christy.
Hello. I'm good.
Are you ready?
My voice does not sound as cool as Sarah's.
I know.
She's got that DJ depth going today.
Right.
I feel like mine sounds more like a cartoon character next to Sarah's.
All right. Well, again, for the millions of people that are joining us for the first time, we cover relevant business and tax topics, and we do it by applying straight talk, practical information without all the jargon and stuffiness that generally goes with our professions as CPAs. So we want to have some fun through this conversation. We are doing this for entrepreneurial business owners, for those in the business world. We try to bring different topics all the time, and today is no different. This week is no different at all. We're taking on a little bit different of a topic. We are talking this week about sustainability. And I know when we started talking about this topic, I've only really known about sustainability from the perspective of working on the board of the Tulsa Route 66 Marathon. There, several years ago, we went to get a certification that we were a sustainable event in the way we did things, the way we did our cups, the way we discarded stuff. And we're going to get into all this information and what sustainability really is. But more importantly, we're going to look at it from a business perspective. And if you are a business owner and you're going, I don't know why I should listen to this episode, we are going to get into how sustainability can profit your business and why it is important. And so we've got this amazing topic to do today. If anyone's like me, I went and said, what is sustainability? And came up with a lot of fancy words. We're going to use practical talk, plain English, and describe all that stuff to you today. So with that, Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you. You know, this is the first time in a season and several episodes that you are introducing our guest.
I take that as a huge win and compliment. Because thank you, Jeff.
You should.
Because
yes.
I am super excited just to jump in and introduce Lindsey Barbour, our teammate. Lindsey has over 20 years of CFO consulting, entrepreneurial, and teaching experience. Lindsey partners with entrepreneurs as both CFO and tax strategy consultant, where she translates, seriously, complex financial challenges into actionable growth strategies. She works with business owners to identify long-term, short-term, all their goals, and she executes financial and operational strategies to accomplish agreed upon objectives. Lindsey transforms business operations through her strategic and futuristic mindset in tax planning, executive decision support, and anything that has to do with process automation. That's who she is as a professional. I could say that about her. She executes that way too, just as a person. She's deeply committed to her family and her community. She's an alumna of Oklahoma State University and Northeastern State University, and she serves her Tulsa community like no one else. She's on multiple boards, but one of the boards is a Sustainability Alliance, which is one of the things she's going to talk to us about today. Lindsey's also involved with the Oklahoma Society of CPAs, where she serves on the Public Relations Committee. And shout out, she was honored as a OSCPA Trailblazer in 2023. You guys, there is so much more I could tell you about Lindsey. That's just the highlights. So it's my honor to welcome you, Lindsey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Christy. That's such a warm welcome.
I will just jump in here and say, well, first of all, Lindsey, how long have you been at CCK?
I have been here like 7.5 years now. And it was funny. I just realized that the other day because I kept telling people I've been here 8 years. And I was like, wait, no, not quite.
It just seems like
you
that.
can round up. You can round up. It's fine.
Well, the one thing that I've always appreciated about Lindsey is she's very practical. She's very down to earth. And what I mean by that is she can, and I think you mentioned it, Christy, she has a way of explaining complex topics, issues, and situations in what I would say in layman's terms. She can really dumb it down well for people. And she does a fantastic job at that. So Lindsey, we're excited to have you on and talk about this topic. So I'm sorry. I jumped in there again, Christy. Go.
I love it. No, Jeff, as I was introducing Lindsey, I was just kind of getting excited about all the things of who she is and what she brings to the table. So I'm on board. I'm totally on board. So let's dive into it, Lindsey. We're here to talk about sustainability and specifically sustainability and business owners. Can you just break the ice for us and tell us give us a definition of what sustainability is for business owners or in the workplace?
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of connotations to sustainability that you might think of originally. But if you just think of the word itself, sustainable, like making something ongoing and know that it's going to be successful into the future, really is at the root of sustainable business practices. And I think sustainability is one of those topics that can be very, very broad. And I love talking to business owners about strategic planning and what their goals are and where they're headed. And it really weaves in well with those strategic planning conversations because we always say, with the Sustainability Alliance, it's people, profit, planet. So there's a people component woven into sustainability. We have young generations of people in the workforce that are passionate about these topics. It's a great way to pull your employees in for employee engagement and, of course, profit. That's important for all of us as business owners. So there's so many ways in which sustainable business practices can help with tangible dollar savings for companies that jump into this. And then, of course, on top of that, we're trying to be good to the planet and make sure that we're utilizing the resources available effectively. So I think all of that weaves together and it also being very aware of who your stakeholders are as a business owner. And this topic can be important, whether it be a product that you sell and some of your people that are buying that product might want to know about your sustainable business practices in order to engage more. And so it can be a huge deal for a company's brand as well.
Sara and Jeff, I don't know if you guys are hearing this already, but I feel this connection of what we heard yesterday or last week, whenever one of our guests, Lindsey, his name is Corey the Ox Hatch. And he was talking exactly about what you're talking about. Whenever he's consulting with a business owner, he really wants to identify the values because you can't have the success with one without the other. And I'm hearing a lot of symmetry there. So it must be a theme that we're floating through on two CPAs on the mic,
right?
Guys. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
agreed.
Lindsey, I got a quick question. And this is kind of it's not a real overly professional question, but I guess what I want to ask is, I look at sustainability as efficiency and let's just say saving the planet. You mentioned it. How long has sustainability really been around and been a big deal? It's no secret that Christy and I come from the 80s and we grew up in that, that Gen X. Is this something that's really kind of come through with millennials or Gen Z, or has it just always been around and I've never noticed it before?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, actually. I mean, I think it's been around in various ways, shapes and forms. And I think you have a regulatory environment that shifts over time. And so that has definitely gotten to be more and more as we've seen more and more regulations on whether that be thinking about how the business actions impact the environment, from maybe that's bird life or any kind of animals involved, making sure water is clean to drink. All of those things, I think, gradually over time have been elevated in the public space. And then you see that regulatory response to that to start to monitor those things more closely. And then to your point, I think there's a millennial and then the generations even after millennial that are getting really, really passionate about this and I think it really ties back to that word sustainable again, because sustainability can also mean a work-life balance that the younger generations are really looking for. A lot of them are not just after profit. They want to feel like what they do means something. And so that's where, again, that employee engagement can become really critical for business owners. My son, his 18th birthday is actually today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And he is very passionate about sustainability. And he thinks he might want to go into a environmental science degree, maybe do environmental law. And so to him, when he talks about the life he wants, he talks about wanting to make a difference in the world. And this is one part of that for him. So I think it has grown a lot in the public view as a result. And then you see, again, brands pop up that become popular because we know that they're committed to sustainable practices, which also bleeds into just how we treat our employees. Are we paying a fair wage? Are we creating equitable conditions for our employees? So all of those factors it's a very broad topic because it really does include all those things.
So the sustainability that you were just talking about is the continuance of human beings and their quality of life, as opposed to just the planet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's what I love about that word is it's so multifaceted.
It's not just recycling, because that's what I think about.
Exactly.
And it's not just Dwight being Recyclops.
Great
it's
reference.
Way more than that, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think even when you talk about recycling, that's such a interesting topic because actually one of my clients is in recycling and she's so knowledgeable about this topic. But recycling it's challenging because if you don't actually trace where those recycled materials are going and how they're being handled, it may or may not actually be helpful to be recycling.
Wow.
And so, when it comes to like electronics and tracing where those go, and a lot of them are being shipped overseas and kind of just dumped places, there's a lot to that when you really dig into it.
I find that topic fairly amazing from the perspective of talking with my kids and their spouses. And what I mean by that is we'll get into these discussions and they'll show me this stuff like all these clothes washed up on shore, or you watch 60 Minutes and they talk about the California fires and them having to go through the neighborhoods and everything they had to do for these batteries in these electric cars. And it's so amazing how all this stuff there's more than just 2 or 3 people on this planet. There's several. And when little by little, it just all adds up and it can get really out of hand pretty quickly. Isn't that right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's just thinking about our day-to-day lives and how we live. That can be like for my son, he wants to shop at vintage stores. That's an example of ways that younger generations are getting really passionate about sustainability, is they're saying there's all of these clothes already out there, and let's, and then let's make it cool, and it's a scavenger hunt. And let's go look for what we want instead of going and buying something and shipping it and all of these things that end up adding to the impact on the environment.
Yeah. In the years that we were growing up, goodwill was kind of a bad word. And now my kids, they thrift all the time. And my son, who's 25 years old, is like, hey, look what I found. Look what I thrifted. You know how much I paid for this? And it looks great. So yeah, it's one of those things that's so going different. On and on. Yeah. Lindsey, is sustainability, does it just apply to big corporations, or does it apply to small and mid-sized businesses as well?
Yeah. So there's so much that small to mid-sized businesses can do. I think one of kind of the low-hanging fruit items that companies can look at is utility usage. I think especially when if they own their own building, they can start to track those metrics. And Sustainability Alliance that I'm on the board of actually has a scorecard tool that can help with that keeps all of that data. And it can do things like help you to identify a water leak. Because historically, you have a certain water usage, and if it's tied into your meter, into that raw data, it can start to identify things like that earlier so that you can do something about it and make sure you're not spending too much on that. And then especially like if you're in manufacturing, things like just recycling the water usage throughout, you may have used it for this purpose, but maybe there's a way to recapture that water, reuse it again. And that could end up being a big savings item for the business. And so just, I think there's a lot of people that are consultants in this area that, I've connected to by being a part of this community that can really help too, to just jump in and go, have you thought about this? And maybe it's a little bit of an investment up front to, redo your manufacturing process, to reuse that water. But then the cost savings are pretty significant at times. And so you're weighing that, what's the return on investment going to be on this project? And the cool thing too, I think about the approach that I know the Sustainability Alliance does and some of these consultants is to say, okay, let's invest this in this project. This is going to be our return on investment. And then when we see that return realized, what's the next project? And just keep rolling that investment into the next project, and you start snowballing the returns on that investment.
Lindsey, Jeff, do you mind if I interrupt?
Yeah, go right ahead.
In the intro, I mentioned the Sustainability Alliance, and you mentioned it a couple of times. For our listeners' sake, can you share with us exactly what is the Sustainability Alliance, and is it just in this one location, or is it a national organization?
Yeah. So originally, the Sustainability Alliance was known as Sustainable Tulsa, and I got involved in it many years ago. I used to be a professor at Tulsa Community College, and they utilized the TCC space a lot for events and things like that. So I started getting my students involved in service learning, where they would go and do presentations for the Sustainability Alliance on different business-related topics. And so that's how I first got involved, and then reconnected with Corey, who's the executive director at some point in time. And she's like, no, we really need a treasurer. That's usually how CPAs get
sucked in.
Sarah and Jeff understand that.
Yes.
And so, at that point, I started serving on the board, which was, gosh, I'm losing track of time. I think it's been 4 years ago now. And right now I'm the vice president of the Nom and Gov area for that committee, overseeing that committee this year. And I'm president-elect. So next year I'll be president of the board. And I've just really been impressed with this organization for those many years that I've been a part of it, because its commitment to the community and to, you mentioned the word values. So the mission of the organization is really education, to educate, provide tools and connections. So it's a lot about community And we often refer to ourselves as a convener of varied viewpoints to come together and have difficult conversations. So it's a little bit different than some other organizations maybe that are in this similar space. We've got a lot of people involved in the oil and gas arena, which of course is huge for Oklahoma. And so it did start in Tulsa, and a big bulk of our community is Tulsa based, but they did change their name, especially during COVID era, where we started doing more meetings online, and we started having people really from all over that are interested in this topic come together with our group. And so it's got a larger reach at this point.
Is it just Tulsa, or is it nationally? And this is just a branch or a division of a national organization?
Yeah,
Sorry,
so it's not a national organization. I mean, it's based in Tulsa. We have explored potentially, starting up different versions of it in other communities. We've talked to, like, for instance, the city of Durant has something similar. We've talked to them before with their group to collaborate. And so it's not really formalized to have clubs or groups in other cities necessarily at this point, but that is something that I think the organization might expand to. But really just creating those tools, like the scorecard tool I mentioned, we do have people from across the United States that utilize those tools. And a lot of times that people get involved in the organization and start becoming a part of the scorecard program. So Cox Communications is an example of that. And we have members on the board from Cox Communications as well, and they are part of our scorecard program. And so we work with those branches across the United States are using that scorecard tool and participating. So that's just an example, but we have several corporations like that have multiple branches that we work with across the United States.
So what key programs or initiatives does the Sustainability Alliance have to help partner with businesses here in Tulsa? But I mean, I know I'm being specific to Tulsa, but that's also nationally too.
Yeah. So we have our business to business group that you can join as a member. And so I'm a business member of that group, and we meet quarterly. And again, it's just bringing that community together. So that's really where a lot of these business owners come and they learn about a topic. We usually have a presenter or a group of people talking about a specific topic. But then it's really just those conversations with the members, with each other on, hey, this is what I tried and this is how much money we saved. And they really learn a lot from each other in those settings. So that's one program we have. We have the scorecard program itself, which has a competition element to it. So you answer a lot of questions, you collect a lot of data, and all of that is verified. And then we have our people that win awards for what they did. And so the Bellman Award winners are kind of our cream of the crop people that have just done an insanely amazing job at implementing these practices and documenting, again, how much savings they've had as a result. And then we have the First Steps program. So maybe you're not quite ready to do the scorecard in its entirety because it is a commitment. I mean, you have to kind of have a committee of people at your business that are committed to gathering that data and answering those questions and all of that. And so some people aren't quite ready for that level of commitment yet, but First Steps program, churches are a part of that, schools, community organizations, and small businesses that just want to find out small ways to get started. So that program is really just custom designed for the participants and what they want to get out of it. And so the person that kind of coordinates that program meets with them and figures out a plan, and then they execute on that plan together. We also have the TerraScore app, which allows you as an individual to track some of your sustainable practices, which can include the small things like going out in nature, gardening, going for a walk, walking somewhere instead of driving. Those things you can document.
How many Amazon packages I didn't have delivered today, right?
Yeah, and there's challenges for that. So we have different sponsors for those challenges. the Oklahoma Aquarium is a big supporter of that program, and we'll host challenge events there on their location sometimes. The Tulsa Zoo is a big part of this. So that's a really cool program too. We really have so much that we do. For a small team, they do so much. They've got Green Drinks is a quarterly thing that we just meet up at Nothing's Left Brewery most of the time, which has a sustainability model that they follow in the way that they brew their beers. And they were actually featured along with the Sustainability Alliance on HGTV to talk about their sustainable practices. And they also toured the gathering place. And of course, that has a lot of sustainability built into it too.
So it sounds to me like, Lindsey, there's a way for a business, small, medium, large, to get involved in sustainability practices without the feel of being overwhelmed, or that you need to do it all immediately in order to do anything. Is that correct?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, just take those baby steps, just one little thing at a time, and it does all add up and make a difference.
So let me just kind of ask this question. It's completely off the agenda and outlook or the outline and all that.
No, really?
I know.
You sure?
My teammates love these kind of questions. But and let me kind of preface it a little bit. In Oklahoma, we legalized medical marijuana back in 2018. And if you know anything about cannabis and medical marijuana, you know that we've been the Wild West because of the way we implemented the licensing process. And it just at one point in time, we had 7,000 growers in the state of Oklahoma. So as a member of that board and that organization, are there practices that come up all the time that you guys are like, oh my gosh, these cannabis farmers are doing X, Y, and Z? Or what I found out last summer is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be completely wrong, but like there's some kind of sustainability with AI and these data centers and all this kind of stuff that's going on these days, especially in Oklahoma. And so what are the kind of the conversations that you all have about these kind of things?
Yeah, sure. I think data centers is a huge conversation point right now, just kind of across everywhere because of the utility usage. And I think it varies from place to place how much those companies that are coming in and building the data centers are having to help to cover those costs, or whether or not those costs are going to be passed along to the consumers. And then I think it's an ethical question that we all have to grapple with, because if we're going to get in there and ask ChatGPT something or have it create a song for us or create a funny picture for us, that it's an ethical question we need to grapple with a little bit, that we are using a lot of resource to do that, to answer that question. And so the more and more it becomes part of the fabric of society, we have to ask ourselves about that. We're, saving money in some ways through AI. And then there's also a cost involved. And so making sure we've actually weighed that cost. And I think a lot of those companies that are running those programs, Microsoft, Google, that are making those big investments, I think there's definitely just a lot of nuance to that conversation, because they're bringing some money into the community, but looking at the details, how many jobs are they actually creating? And then what is going to be the burden on the community as a result with the utility usage and things of that nature. So I think it's just something that it's going to be a continuing, evolving conversation. And renewables is a part of that. So how do we potentially use renewable energy to help utilize that? So then that becomes an investment piece of those projects as well. Or is natural gas? I mean, that's a big Oklahoma export, but how do we use natural gas to try to make those centers as efficient as possible? So that's become a big thing, is that oil and gas is investing in data centers quite a bit. So that for sure. And then I think, you could say the same thing about cannabis, actually, in terms of the utility usage, that, when a big cannabis farm moves into middle of nowhere Oklahoma town, you got to ask yourself, do we have the water resources? Do we have the right electric infrastructure and everything? And I think in Oklahoma, we're pretty fortunate to have a decent amount of water available. But when you look at California and Arizona and some of these other states, like water is a very finite resource that we have to think about.
It's interesting when we're talking about this with the impact on resources and infrastructure. When in economic development, when organizations are recruiting businesses to move into their region, they look at all of that. They look at the land, they look at water, they look at all of the components, the workforce. So you said it just now, Lindsey, states that are very obvious, California, Nevada, Arizona, there are certain resources that they're more limited. And you have to think that when it comes to sustainability and economic development, the states are probably looking at that and then identifying how much of a priority that is for them. Whereas where we are in Texas or Oklahoma, we may have a different view depending on where you are in the state than, say, California or Vermont, wherever that is. And so it's really interesting to always hear these different perspectives, how we see the world very differently.
It's not only how we see the world, Christy, but what we know of the world. I didn't understand this issue with the data centers and AI and all that until this past summer. And it came up through a conversation on our family vacation, because I was saying something about, I don't know, Chat GPT, and my son-in-law goes, well, Chat GPT, and I was like, what? But and it's not like I know everything, but I mean,
you're in the world of business.
I'm in a partner in a fairly large CPA firm, and I never knew that. And so it just makes you wonder how much of that information is really out there. And it's why we need to educate. So, Lindsey, let's move this conversation a little bit back to the business part of it and talk about sustainability as a business strategy. So I'm a business owner, I'm listening to this, and really at the end of the day, I care about sustainability, but maybe not that much. What I really care about is how it could impact my bottom line. So how do these sustainability initiatives improve profitability and efficiency?
So, I mean, I think there's kind of, again, that low-hanging fruit that you can do. I know just even in this building, where CCK is, there was some investment in changing out the lighting to LED light. Like, that is a big thing that businesses can do to really drive down those utility costs. And then you mentioned, Jeff, the work that you guys did to become a sustainable event for the race. And so when you talk about just simple things like, okay, we're going to have some physical coffee cups available for our employees. And yes, we're going to have to wash those at the end of the day, but is that better than constantly going through some styrofoam cups or something like that? So there can be some pretty simple cost savings with those types of things as well. So it's really just kind of going down through. It's not always convenient for us. And I think we live in a convenient society. And so it's weighing those costs and those benefits and saying, what kinds of small changes can we make that could make a big difference in the long term?
And I just realized, so we're behind the scenes here, we're doing this on Teams so we can see each other and capture the recording. And while we're doing this, I'm standing here with I'm not sure if I should say what convenience store it is in Tulsa with my big Q. And I'm like, is Lindsey judging me?
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, Jeff's got this big old QT cup. And now I'm over here with my big old Chick-fil-A styrofoam cup.
It's not only that, but it's like, if you get one of these every day and 100,000 people get one, I mean, that's a big old mountain of styrofoam. And I don't know.
Big old mountain of dew.
Diet Mountain Dew. I don't know where it goes. And if it doesn't impact me, I tend not to care. And the whole concept of this discussion is that, well, maybe you should a little bit more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it's just made me stop and think a little bit more. Just the fact that I'm involved in the Sustainability Alliance, just the fact that I'm in this community, because it really is a community of people, that it just makes me stop and think. And it's not I think just like with anything else, we need to not beat ourselves up, because right now I'm living in a camper and we're building a house and on the property, and we have, lofty goals for what my son's interested in: sustainable farming. And my husband spends all his time learning about sustainable farming. So, we're going to try to grow our own food at some point and do all these things. But in the meantime, we're living in a camper. And when I'm living in a camper, convenience has to be a big part of my life.
Yes.
You said convenience earlier, and my first place went, she's living in an RV. She can speak on this subject right now.
I mean, in some ways, I'm being very sustainable because I don't have any space to put anything. And so that helps you to stop and think about, how much stuff do I really need on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
That's another way to think about sustainability. But on the other hand, it's like sometimes I got to use that paper plate and that plastic fork because we're just surviving,
Right.
in that moment. And so I think it's not beating yourself up, but it's, again, taking those small first steps in whatever way makes sense for you. And just hoping that at the end of the day, we're all making an impact. I mean, we're big nature people, and that's a big part of sustainability as well, is going out into nature and enjoying it. So we have the Bronco when we drive that, but then I also have an electric car. And so it's all in balance,
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what I really love about the Sustainability Alliance, is that that's where we are that convener. There's people that are, another example of that is the Zinc Lake project, where they dammed up the Arkansas River and created the Zinc Lake. That was a very contentious decision that we voted on. And so the decision was kind of already made because we voted on it, and it was like, it's a done deal. But the city of Tulsa utilized the Sustainability Alliance to facilitate conversation and help people be heard and help people's concerns be elevated, like water quality and how are we going to make sure this is safe and all of that, and yet be balanced about it in the same way. And so I think that's where this organization is kind of unique and different, and why I'm a part of it, because it's not making a villain out of anybody, but it's saying, let's bring everybody to the table and let's talk about these things. And it's going to make all of us a little bit more conscientious about our day-to-day choices.
So, Lindsey, one of the questions in our loose outline that we developed really brought some interest to me, and it has to do with environmental, social, and governance considerations. The question is, what are lenders and investors and customers increasingly expecting? And so the reason this was interesting to me was, again, you go back to the mindset of a business owner. We often have to deal with lenders. We often have to deal with investors and obviously customers. So are there things going on in the marketplace that may not be well known, but could impact the ability to get loans or to bring on investors or even obtain customers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we see that a lot. So ESG compliant is something that is out there, and large corporations are required. If you're traded on the SEC, there's some ESG compliance requirements out there. And that in and of itself it's one piece of how county overlaps with environmental issues. Because then, of course, we have to go through and test for all of these things if you were doing, an ESG audit. But I think a lot of, small businesses are not subject to those requirements. And then those requirements are shifting. And so we may have an administration that's putting a lot more requirements on, and then we may have an administration that takes a lot of those requirements off. That's going to ebb and flow. But when it comes to your customers and the impacts, especially in a global environment. So a lot of our clients, of course, have international components to what they do. And so if they want to sell to Canada, if they want to sell to the European Union, if they want to sell to California, they're going to be subject to some of these additional compliance pieces that they may not be subject to their customer base is only entirely in Oklahoma. But it's something that, especially as businesses grow, they need to be aware of, that they may have to contend with some of these requirements later on. So why not build that into the fabric of how they're creating their foundation from the very beginning? And then it's going to be a lot easier when that does come into play. I think that's a huge part of it. We talked about the fact that we've got younger generations that care about this. As our population ages, just in general, that fight for the workforce becomes a really critical thing. And so when we talk about these young people coming into their professions and choosing a profession or choosing a company to work for that aligns with their values, you're hearing that a lot more. And even that intersection with mental health. The Sustainability Alliance, we held one of our B2B events was centered around mental health, which, speaking of Quick Trip, they were a sponsor of it.
Shout out to Quick Trip.
Yeah. They have amazing practices for their employees around mental health. And that is considered a piece of their sustainability practices. It's just taking care of the human beings. I mean, we're part of the environment too, right? That work for us. And so there's going to be ramifications for businesses if they just decide to completely ignore the ways in which sustainability and the environment and some of those things impact their bottom line at the end of the day.
So I think we're moving towards the close of this discussion. I know I have two more questions for you. I'll let my teammates come up with their remaining questions, but mine's kind of a piggyback pair of questions. So let me ask the first one, and then if you would respond, let me ask the second one. So I'm a business owner. I'm listening to this episode. This sounds great, but gee whiz, I just don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth, these kind of limitations. What do I do? Number one. And second of all, with this first question, what do I do? And what may be one sustainable action that almost any business can take on in a short period of time?
Yeah. I mean, as an individual, a kind of easy thing that you could do would be to download the TerraScore app from the Sustainability Alliance, which is just available on any app store for your phone. And that can give you some really great ideas to get started. And like I said, it's going to look different for everybody. I think what that is based on your interests, based on what you care about. Some people, one of their big projects for sustainability is to create like a community garden for their employees, or to do specific planting of plants that will help with the butterfly population, things of that nature, that it kills two birds because it's bringing your employees together, and it's mental health, and it's getting people outside, which we know is
three
just
birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, three birds.
Keeping them alive.
Yeah. And so I think that is just an example, but I think it's good. I would say pull your employees, find out what they care about, and do that, because you're going to win if they're bought into it and it's something that you all can do together.
Jeff, may I dovetail on that before you ask your second question?
Yeah, go right ahead.
On the flip side of that, Lindsey, so that's from the employee side. So say I'm an employee and I've been at a place and my value system is really towards sustainability, but my employer and my teammates really haven't bought in. What is something that employee can do to influence without pushing it out of the way? What are some tips for people who are interested in getting more engaged in having their employer? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's always just living by example. What are some small ways that you have to take initiative on it? If other people aren't going to do it, you have to do it yourself. And so to say, what's something that you're going to commit to on your own? And an example of that is, I mean, even at CCK, we did start a drive for recycling a few years back. And we did that with across the buildings that are in this complex. And so just again, to have the conversation, raise awareness, but somebody's got to take the initiative to do that. And then most of the time people aren't like, oh no, you can't do that. People will let you do something if you just step out there and model it by example.
One of the things I really enjoy about this podcast, Christy, is that was the exact question I was going to ask.
Nice.
Wow.
So we're on the same wavelength there. I guess the only thing that I would add to that is what I think I'm hearing from you, Lindsey, is that the key to this is not only to be proactive versus reactive, but you have to get over the concept that it's better to make progress than to be perfect. Is that reasonable?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So anything is a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just every moment of every day we make choices and we do the best we can. Some days we can't do anything extra. And
like this podcast, right, Sara Mays?
Yep.
Progress
Yes.
over perfection.
That's right. That's right.
Sara, did you have anything as we are getting close to wrapping up here?
No, I definitely wanted to bring up Recyclops and I got that in. So I am good.
You hit.
I hit what I wanted today.
You sound like you've had some medication this afternoon, Sara. But
just a little bit. I'm fading. Fading.
Yeah, we better get done soon. So, Lindsey, this has been, I mean, I knew this was going to be, when I say this has been more interesting than I thought, that doesn't mean that I didn't think it would be. I thought it would be, but it's even better than I thought. And a lot of that has to do with you.
Yes.
And the question that we asked about the teammate, if you're in a place that doesn't, that's exactly what you did pretty much at CCK, is you started taking the reins there and wanting to do certain things. And so you're basically speaking from example. But let's say I'm an individual or I'm a business owner again, Lindsey, and this stuff has really been, I've found it interesting, compelling. I want to do something. I think the next step is maybe to reach out to you and get some more information. So how could our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, I mean, they could email me.
Yes.
Here at CCK. So my email is just lindsey@cckcpa.com, and would be happy to have those conversations and or call our CCK offices and ask for me. And I'd be very happy to have that conversation about just, again, first steps. How do we get started? And I think it's really all about community at the end of the day, just aligning with people that care about similar things.
And it is Lindsey with an E, not Lindsey with an A, for sure. And Lindsey, share the website for the Sustainability Alliance.
Yes, it's the sustainabilityalliance.org.
Pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
Pretty easy.
Well, thank you so much for all that information, Lindsey. And before we go, we're hoping Sara Mays has enough strength to do our traditional rapid fire.
Yes. All right, Lindsey, you ready?
I don't know. I'm nervous.
These are fun ones. These are fun. All right. What is your favorite way to unplug after a busy day or busy week?
Reading a book.
Nice. Okay. Text or phone call?
Text. Yeah. I'm
That's
one
my
of the
girl.
people that will text all the deep things. It doesn't matter.
Nice. Nice. All right. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I think I'm a little of both. I switch it up. Yeah. I can do both of them.
All right. Okay. On that same vein, how many times do you hit the snooze?
Oh, I am not a snooze person, but my husband is. So, and that drives me nuts.
Well, how many times does he hit the snooze then?
Oh, he hits the snooze like 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
And
geez.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I could have been asleep that entire time.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right. And then last, are you a sweatpants or dress pants kind of girl?
I think I'm more sweatpants these days. Yeah. I used to dress up a lot more, but not as much.
Nice. All right.
I didn't know where you were going with the sweatpants question, but that was good.
Yes.
And I wish we had more time because, and I'm thrilled that Lindsey alluded to it, but this backstory of her living in an RV right now with 2 boys.
Yeah.
Two teenage boys.
Teenage boys.
Yes.
I'm just curious how your husband keeps hitting the alarm, the snooze, and how that affects the entire RV. That's where I was going.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, oddly enough, I feel like it's like you can't really hear from one end of the RV to the other. So it's kind of nice. We have
That's really cool. No kidding.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well,
we're doing okay with it. We're surviving, but we've got maybe a month and a half left of this. And then
you're in the final stretch then, probably. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I would say, Lindsey, is that I would almost guarantee that 5 to 10 years down the road, when your boys are home for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner with their family, they're going to joke about this period of time and laugh about it. And it's going to create some amazing family memories for you all. So hang in there, get that house done, and go on with living in a real home for a while then. So again, Lindsey, thank you so much for being with us today. We are thankful that you joined us today for this episode. If you want to connect with us in any way, shape, or form about anything at all, whether it's what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, future guests, all that kind of stuff, email us, please, at podcast@cckcpa.com. That's podcast@cckcpa.com. As always, we want to thank CCK for this opportunity to reach business owners and business people via this medium. KP, thank you so much for all you do for us by protecting the brand and keeping us on the straight and narrow. Robert Mays, thank you for our incredible intro and outro music. Clarence Fisher with Tulsa Internet Marketing Services, thank you for all you do. And Emily Johansson for getting us across the finish line and submitting our episodes and all that administrative work. We appreciate you as well. Again, Lindsey, one last time, thank you for joining us. Thank you, KP and Sarah. And we hope that you all join us next time as these 2 CPAs get together to chat and you get to find out who's on the mic.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute accounting, tax, legal, or financial advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations change and individual circumstances vary. Always consult with a qualified CPA or professional advisor before making any financial or business decisions. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organizations they are affiliated with. Listening to this podcast does not create a client-accountant relationship. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to those terms. And that's a wrap for this episode of 2 CPAs in the Mic. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have questions or ideas for a topic? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@cckcpa.com.